Hello, BookTube, and welcome to a Thursday MegaStuff video. I've been feeling lately like something that was discarded in anger, and I thought briefly about maybe not making videos today, but I miss you when I don't make videos, as silly as that must sound. So I thought I would prop myself up and make a couple of videos just to see your faces. And as usual with MegaStuff videos, we're talking about a bunch of little things that wouldn't make a video on their own. I wouldn't make a string of videos today anyway. I have a whole bunch of tags I want to do that are going to have to wait. So I thought I'd just assemble a bunch of those little things and just have a sit down with you today. A bunch of little things that we can talk about, starting with babies, of course, because the baby pictures have been coming in. They still continue to come in. I can't believe it took me this long to stumble upon the idea of having you all send me pictures of your dogs and cats and rats and books and whatnot. I can't believe I ever did that. I can't believe it took me this long to stumble upon that. I've mentioned before on this channel that I have 4 friends who are YouTubers professionally. That's what they do. That's all they do. And 2 of those are wealthy YouTubers. I've watched their channels grow to enormous, unmanageable sizes where they need a staff in order to take care of it. They need to paid assistants and whatnot. Or it's become a business that they rely on. And we Voxer and email all the time. I leave my Voxer down below, by the by. We email and Voxer all the time, and they continue to berate me friendly, in a gentle way. They continue to berate me. They say, well, there's a real good reason why not many other YouTube channels have the host showing email pictures that he got from all and sundry that he got in his personal email account, and that's because no one does that. That's why you don't see that, because no one does that. They never cease to tell me that I am doing parasocial relationships wrong, because there's in the well-studied phenomenon of the parasocial relationship, the on-camera figure is presenting an idealized fake version of themselves, specifically with the intention of manipulating the audience into doing things for them. That's how parasocial relationships are supposed to work. That is the organization on which those 4 friends have completely built their channels. And that doesn't work on this channel, does it? I could leave my Patreon account down below until I was blue in the face. It wouldn't cause any of you to drop a nickel in the jar. And I also don't. I just don't have the. I don't have the energy, or the humility, I guess, to fake to you who I am. And as a result, we have a dialogue instead of a TV presentation. So I get pictures of babies in the mail. And I got to tell you, these last few days, I really needed it. We have this, for instance, this person, who I am told, the sender tells me this is the goofiest dog you will ever meet. And when I heard that description, it stopped me for a minute, because I realized that I have never owned a goofy dog. I've never lived with one. I've known them. I've known plenty, but I've never had one myself. I've never lived with a goof. None of my dogs have ever been goofy, very much including my present dog. You could say a lot about Frida, but she is not goofy. She's not happy-go-lucky at all. I love her to death, but she's far more serious. They're far more, if I may, German than that. Then we have Dozer. Look at him. We all talk about dogs commandeering the couch, but that is a couch that is well and truly commandeered. And I don't know if you can make out the detail there with the shaved hair, but Dozer recently had his right foreleg amputated to contain the cancer that was in it, make sure it didn't spread to the rest of his body. And he might look depressed, but he's really just sleeping. He's completely... The humans involved tell me that it barely fazed him at all. Dogs are extremely sound psychologically. Most of the time, they're barely fazed at all by the kind of things that humans make into the meaning for their whole life. There is no way to get that couch back from Dozer unless he says that you can have it back. And this sender sent me pictures of dogs, but could not resist sending pictures of cats as well. Even went so far as to tell me that I would like one of these 2 cats. Highly unlikely. And here's a puppy, intently destroying someone's toe. And then this last picture, the most remarkable one of the day, I want to stress, I have seen this site many, many, many times. This person saw it out on his job route. It's a fox. And this person told me that the fox was not timid and was interested and stood and stuck around. And I have been in that position many, many times myself. I want to stress that these are also my people. That is also my baby. Yes. And someday, if we're ever on a hike somewhere all together, a huge crowd of us, like any of you freaking introverts would do that. But if we ever were, and we rounded a bend and saw a fox just sitting there on the road like that, if that ever happens, I will show you something. I will do something for you. I will perform a demonstration for you that you will never have seen before. You'll find it quite fun. Every friend that I've ever hiked with, when we come across something like that, or coyotes in the American Southwest, when the mood is on me, when I'm feeling generous, I have performed a little demonstration there, because these are my babies too, and they know it. And we like to face smooch. It's a little bit tough for me to do sometimes when I was out and about, because when I used to travel and hike all over creation, I was hiking usually with a big crowd of beagles who were specifically bred to destroy that kind of animal, but they paid attention to me, or to their lieutenant. I had, for a long, long time, there was me, and I was the law. I said what we did and didn't do. But I also had a lieutenant who was extremely old and white-faced and built like a rock, and who controlled things when I wasn't around, was the second voice of authority. And we both agreed, no attacking the wildlife. None at all. None at all. Not unless we're hunting. So I was able to get I was able to disarm the natural caution of foxes and coyotes quite a bit. So those are the babies, and I want to do a few miscellaneous other things. We have one package, and there's a book that I want to show you. Something that I've been reading. I just finished it. It was a bathroom book. It's the very best of the best. 35 years of Gardner Dozois's year's best science fiction anthologies. Big, thick, green thing. Gardner Dozois, of course, is no longer with us. He was a great science fiction editor, and for 35 years, he did the best science fiction of the year. One after another, big, generous volumes. Every year, they would come out like clockwork. Big, long essay from him on the genre, and then careful selections by him from all across the publishing medium. And they were great. I often argued with some inclusions and some exclusions. I often had problems with those introductory essays, but I loved them. And I don't think I paid much attention to this volume when it first came out. And then I found it again, because the beginning of 2020, I made what turns out to be a very wise investment. I started looking around for science fiction anthologies, and they are great. They really are. They are a wonderful way to lose yourself completely from the present world. And I just finished this volume. It was my bathroom book. It was sitting on the seat of ease. And I told myself that it would stay there, and I would read one story for each visit. And quite a few of you who are maybe 80 or 90 years younger than I am are saying two things right now. You're saying, no one could possibly visit the bathroom that often. And even if they did, no one visit would be long enough to finish a short story. To which I would say, this waits for you. These years wait for you. But this was terrific. Absolutely terrific. If I read this originally, I think I did. But I think I did it with a chip on my shoulder when Dozois was still alive. I think I read it thinking, here are the things you didn't include. Boy, oh boy, this time around, though, I just paid attention to what's in here, and it's amazing. It's just amazingly good. So many great stories. I mean, there are duds, of course. And not even duds. I shouldn't even say that. The ones I followed with this anthology, I followed the method that I have done on all anthologies in 2020, which is, irrespective of author, irrespective of length or place or prominence or anything like that, I start a story, each story, and it has to keep me going. And by keep me going, I mean I have to be actively interested in turning the page, and I must not be distractible enough to flip a few pages again to see how long the story still has to go. It must catch me up. And that's not unrealistic. A good short story in any genre will do that. And a middling short story, or one that's just not on your wavelength at the moment, won't. And I made a point in this anthology of not sticking around, not forcing my way through the stories that didn't do that. And that was one way to gauge how many great stories are in here, because I hardly ever skipped a story. I hardly ever DNF'd a story. And I didn't DNF them in any final sense, because I will go back and reread everything in this book. But boy, oh boy, what an anthology! Just great. And the reason why my bookmark is all over creation, because in addition to this book, one of you also said it was very nice to send me the ebook of this collection, with the cover and everything, but infinitely searchable and without worrying that the bookmark is going to drop out or anything like that, and infinitely annotatable when where you don't need a pencil. You're not sitting there saying, well, I'd get up and get a pencil right now, but I'm kind of occupied. There was nothing like that if you have an ebook. So that was great. That was fantastic. It's not meant to be, so sui generis. I am reading the anthologies that I got. In fact, I'm reading them at such a clip that I might need to go on various used websites and look for other collections of anthologies, see what else is out there. But there's also periodicals. I got the new Harpers today, with all these different tabbed files that are open. A very interesting cover design. No artwork, just different tabs on a computer of the kinds of things that you're going to find in here. And right away, at the very beginning of this issue, Christopher Beha addresses the infamous letter that Harper's put out. It had a whole bunch of signatories to it, and that got discussed everywhere a month ago or 2 months ago. I want to read you a bit of his editor's desk throat clearing about that letter. On July 7th, we published on our website an open letter signed by more than 150 prominent writers, artists, and scholars. Quote, the free exchange of information and ideas, the letter warned, is daily becoming more constricted. This constriction, it argued, was happening across the American political spectrum, but the left's version of it presupposed a false choice between justice and freedom. Stifling speech will not achieve social progress, the letter insisted. Indeed, such an atmosphere, quote, will ultimately harm the most vital causes in our time. I'd been sent the letter a week earlier by Harper's Magazine contributor Thomas Chatterton Williams, who was among the group responsible for writing it and gathering signatures. I agreed to put it online and to print it in our letters section this month, along with a selection of responses. Within a few days, more than 2 million people had viewed the letter. It made the front page of the New York Times, was translated into half a dozen other languages, and has since been subject of seemingly endless conversation. Many media outlets published thoughtful responses, some of which were quite negative. Writers took issue with the letter's timing, its tone, its premise. Some argued that the letter ignored the workings of structural power in the United States, that it failed to acknowledge the dynamics that withhold even the opportunity to participate in the project of free speech for many communities, and that it failed to recognize the institutional clout of the signatories themselves. How could such well-insulated figures complain about being silenced? These critiques prompted several signatories to write their own responses, explaining what the letter meant to them and what had motivated them to sign it and how they felt about the resulting tempest. Nowhere in the letter do the signatories complain that they personally have felt silenced, and many clarified that they meant to use the privilege of their relative security to speak out on behalf of others in more precarious situations. Indeed, in the days after we published the letter, I received an overwhelming number of messages from young freelance journalists, graduate students, and adjunct professors, the kind of people who are not insulated by tenure or staff positions, expressing relief that the letter had spoken on their behalf. There's a lot of dodging going on in that throat clearing preface. A lot of dodging. Specifically, that mention early on, this constriction, it argued, was happening across the American political spectrum, but the left's version of it presupposed a false choice between justice and freedom. That is a quote from the letter, but that is the most that Beha will actually mention. The obvious genesis of the letter, which was not bipartisan. The obvious genesis of the letter was that the intolerant, racist, and sexist radical left in America is an explicitly, openly fascist organization designed to crush opposing opinions. Not to hear them, not to refute them, but to crush them. And not wildly opposing opinions either. Not well, we want to deplatform you if you're openly espousing Aryan supremacy. No, not that. We want to deplatform you and dox you and harass you and perhaps drive you to suicide because you disagree with us right in the middle of a political spectrum, of an ideological spectrum. You disagree with us, period. not the degree to which you disagree with us, just that you disagree with us, means you should be canceled. You should be eradicated. The right-wing culture in America does not engage in cancel culture. They do not engage in deplatforming. By and large, they don't. The left has embraced these fascist tactics in a way that makes you embarrassed to call yourself part of the left. And that's what the letter was addressing. Not maybe in so many terms, but it was pretty clear what was happening. And what was the left's response when the letter appeared? To immediately start threatening the signatories, to immediately start threatening to cancel and drag them, brigading phone calls to their employers, to their spouses' employers, to the headmasters of their children's schools, to the parents of their children's friends, brigading phone calls and massive email barrages to all of those people who are not involved in explicitly terrorist designs. Terrorism is when you try to get your way, you try to get someone to do something through fear and intimidation. That is what terrorism is. It does not require bombs. And the left immediately started engaging in terrorism. You're the head of a department? Well, I have scrutinized the rules. I downloaded them specifically to attack you, and you can lose your position. If enough pressure is brought to bear on the rest of the board, they can vote to revoke your tenure. Maybe we should do that because you disagree with me. and that response from the left, virulent, absolutely virulent and hateful and aggressive towards anything that disagrees with it. Not a healthy exchange of ideas. The letter was calling for a healthy exchange of ideas, for a healthy debate of all opinions. You'd think that'd be beyond reproach, but no, that is not what the people who were tacitly the target of that letter want. They don't want that at all. They want to silence, crush, and if possible, legally kill anyone who disagrees with them in any way. This issue is full of responses, and the responses are people backing away from the letter because they're afraid of terrorism. Like, for instance, one here begins, I want to respond to those who have been dismayed by my signature on the letter, which I did not write, but agreed to endorse because it read to me like a vague but innocuous statement in support of something I believe in, the need for vigorous, respectful, democratic discourse. Such discourse is crucial to me as a trans activist, which focuses on fostering open discussions about gender to help communities and individuals grow towards mutual understanding. That is not what this person wants to do. They do not want to grow towards mutual understanding. They want to list for you a list of things that trans activism wants and have you very meekly, without a single word of discussion or protest, agree to it all. And if you don't, you're transphobic. And will always be transphobic, and so are your kids. So are your parents. So are their parents. Anyone alive who's connected with you is now the target. If you do anything other than bow your head and say yes. But the writer goes on, I didn't know who else would sign. I never imagined that it would get so much attention in the midst of a pandemic, economic and climate crisis, and continued attacks against people of color. I certainly didn't expect the message to be hijacked by those who oppose trans rights, democratic discourse, and the crucial work of creating rational and economic justice in this country. You know that you are on really shaky ideological grounds, and maybe even really shaky personal grounds, when your defense of yourself, after having signed a letter in express praise of the free and open exchange of ideas, is to say, I didn't know who else would sign. Good Lord. Where are your principles if that is what you say? It seems to me that if that is what you say, if that's any part of your response, then your principles are every bit as transactional as the principles of the people you claim to hate. But I'll be interested to see. This is the thing that's going to live in Harper's letter column for a long time, so there'll be many more responses. But there are a whole bunch of things in here that I haven't read yet. I will, but of course with Harper's or Atlantic or Esquire or anything like that, I turn right away to the back, where the book cover is, the so-called back of the book. There's an excerpt, Time to Destination. There's an excerpt from Don DeLillo's new book. But I find that DeLillo really suffers when he's not read, when he's read an excerpt, so I usually don't bother with them. But then we get to one of the most delightful features in Harper's, which is the new books section, which is 6 or 7 columns of a mix, a grab bag of new releases that one writer writes about all together. Some famous writers have done this. Some long-standing experts have done this. Some big names have done this. And this time around, it's by Andrew Martin. Who's it? A young artist, a young writer named Andrew Martin. He has one novel and one short story collection to his name. And he reviews the new biography of Goya. What else does he do? A new translation of Igifu. The new translation of Wolfgang Kopen's Pigeons on the Grass. What does Andrew Martin have to say about that? First published in 1951, newly translated by Michael Hoffman, is an exercise in outrunning the past. His novel, presented in bursts of action from shifting perspectives, is a modernist tour of Munich over the course of one eventful day in 1948. Kopen's narrative is free-flowing, shifting at times even over the course of a sentence from a character's inner thoughts to the verbal static of the outside world. The novel's roving consciousness deliberately blurs the boundaries between characters' minds, turning Munich into one large, pulsing brain, throwing off brilliant mini-disquisitions on German versus American writers, or the Proustian disappointment of one visitor feels in finding the city not quite as ruined as he imagined. For a contemporary American reader, there are a few jarring moments that bespeak the author's ignorance, or worse, of black American life, not least of which is a black character named Odysseus Cotton. It is a dispiriting limitation in the work of a writer who is otherwise often exhilarating and original, and who should be better known to the English-speaking world. Okay, well, that's fairly good. So whoever this Andrew Martin person is, he probably knows his way around an English-language sentence. We'll see if he can hold on to the job. And then Lauren Euler does that collection of the collected stories of Shirley Hazard that we saw on this channel. And it's a nice long review that I'll tuck inside my physical copy, but I haven't read it yet. So that is Harpers, where the fallout from The Letter begins. And then I wanted to give you a tech update for our MegaStuff video, which I can't seem to make MegaStuff videos short, even when I'm feeling like the bottom of a boot. That's okay. One of the tech updates that I want to give you, the most glowing one of all, is something that I can't show you because I'm filming on it. I showed you the other day. I got well, actually I can. I do have props here. I got what Apple hilariously calls their entry-level iPad, the iPad 7th generation from 2019, which is not exactly buying old technology. I know a lot of you tweet me for buying old technology, but this is still the newest simple iPad, not an iPad Air, not an iPad Mini, not an iPad Pro, no suffix, just iPad. It has an older processor. It has the same processor as was in the iPhone 7. But that processor is still incredibly powerful. It's still just fine. The only reason you would need more is if you were taking advantage of, for instance, the iPad Pro or the iPad Air's extensive abilities as an art tool. And this iPad, and this is all the illustration that I have because I'm filming on the iPad. This iPad has support for an Apple Pencil, the first generation Apple Pencil. So I could do lots of artwork on this thing. I didn't get the pencil because I'm leery about getting accoutrements that will allow me to do things I've never done on technology before. I had an old friend once who warned me about that. Don't buy new technology on speculation. Buy it because it already does what you already do. I might still do it down the line. No harm done. It's not a lot of money. And it unlocks an enormous swath of potential that I won't use on this machine otherwise. But I got the 2019 iPad. I got it with a huge amount of storage so that I don't have to worry about internal storage on an iPad anymore. And while I was at it, I got the Apple Smart Keyboard, which this is magnetic. The stand is magnetic. The bracket where you drop it is magnetic. That's all. I'm filming on it now. I'd never used a smart keyboard before. I got a couple of Bluetooth keyboards. They were crappy, absolutely awful. Half the time the Bluetooth didn't work. This, importantly, is not Bluetooth. It attaches directly. It draws power directly from the iPad through a Lightning port. Through the what are they called? There are keys that attach the keyboard directly to the machine. And that is your tech update for today, is that I have been using that keyboard. and I love it. I absolutely love it. All of the tech channels, all of the tech dudes on YouTube that I watched all said it was passable, but that the keys were squishy, that there wasn't a good lot of travel and whatnot. They were all completely wrong. And I can only assume that they said those things, A, because the smaller channels tend to parrot what the bigger channels say, and B, because they don't do a lot of typing. Most people don't do a lot of typing on a Magic keyboard or on their normal keyboard. I do a huge amount of typing, huge amount, several thousand words a day, in one way or another, for one toe tapping intemperate editor or another, several thousand words a day typing. And this keyboard is incredible, just incredible. First of all, the magnets inside it mean that one of my main worries, which was that when typing on an uneven surface, like for instance on a pillow, or in previous years it would have been on a Basset Hound, would make it flop all around. The magnets stop that from happening. It's as solid as could be. And second, the keyboard, I don't know if you can make it out here, but the keyboard is fabric. The keys are raised, yes, but there are no spaces. They're raised, but only in altitude. They're not separate from the fabric. There's a fabric laying over the whole keyboard. Not possible to drop anything, not possible to catch your finger on the gap between a key and the keyboard itself. It's not possible to do that. And oh my God, is that wonderful. I am never going back. Never. The few times I've been typing on this thing, I am trying to use this machine as my one machine to rule them all. I am trying to do that. So far, I've encountered almost nothing that I can't do on it. I haven't tried yet to see whether or not the new iteration of iOS will allow me to do Zoom on this iPad. I'd be willing to bet it will. But other than that, the few times that I have had to leave this and go back to a normal chiclet keyboard where I can catch my fingernail on a key, where I can snag it, where I can, where there's that awful metallic clicking, the few times that I've had to do that, it's felt like purgatory. So this is working just fine. In an excess of enthusiasm, I uncovered and powered up my Barnes & Noble Nook. I have an extra-sized Barnes & Noble Nook, a 10-inch Nook. And it also has lightning prongs for a dedicated keyboard that is not Bluetooth. And I didn't get that when I got the Nook at the time. I just got the Nook. And I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. You know, you have plenty of tablets. A tablet with a keyboard triples its functionality. So I'll just order one of those keyboards, a keyboard case from Barnes & Noble. Turns out Barnes & Noble isn't interested in selling those things anymore. And so I went to the used venues, the used marketplace all across the internet. And it turns out not many people are interested in selling those things. I found one eventually that should be here today. And then I will give it a try. But I don't think it's cloth. And I think I'm sold on cloth keyboards, or whatever you call this, where it's just one uniform covering that is case molded over the keys, rather than one uniform covering for the board and then the keys are installed. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. This is a dream to type on, just a dream. And it turns out that the shift in thinking that you have to do, if you're working on an iPad with a keyboard, what are you doing? No MegaStuff video would be complete without you. She was nosing me in the small of my back. The small of my back is a little sore right now. So, look at that face. Oh, we're gonna go on that walk as soon as I finish this MegaStuff video. I'll do as much of a walk as I can do. Oh. It turns out that the shift involved, the mental shift, to be using this keyboard, but also using the iPad, sort of in tandem. You don't have a cursor, right, anymore, because you can use your finger. You can manipulate the screen separately from the keyboard. It turns out that mental shift, I can imagine myself 15 years ago, 10 years ago even, that shift would have given me conniptions. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I would have tried and then thrown the thing across the room in disgust. Now it's as easy as could be. And wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's clear to me that Apple's engineers spent a lot of time thinking about how to make working on the iPad, as opposed to just content consumption, how to make working on it work really well, and it does. So Steve is pleased. That is your tech update, is that Steve is pleased. And if I do a MegaStuff video tomorrow, we'll look at the Barnes & Noble lightning port keyboard. But then we have a package, one package, and then we'll be done. You've seen Frida, you've seen other people's babies, you've seen somebody who's nobody's baby at all, Wild Fox, and you had tech update and a little ranting about the media, about the letter. So now we'll do a package and then we'll be done. This is Amazon Prime. I'm hoping it's not a present that one of you is sending me. Baby, this is plastic. Can't have plastic, baby. Oh no, speak of the devil. Okay. This is the Barnes & Noble Smart Keyboard. Okay, great. Here it is. This is the Barnes & Noble Smart Keyboard. This, it makes a case. There's the Nook logo. It makes a case that you put your Nook inside, and this is it's a magnet. And I believe there are magnets in the case as well that make this one of those that smart wakes up your machine. There's the lightning port. So you just slide the Nook down in there. I'm pretty sure magnets hold it in place. And there's the keyboard. Okay, so the keyboard is not cloth. The keys stick up. But I don't know how they work. I'm not going to rule it out for that. Great. Okay, well I am, see, you don't, these smart keyboards don't have a trackpad. That's the shift that you have to make, the mental shift that you have to make, is that all that kind of manipulating you have to do on the pad itself. It's only the typing that you do here. But I will, I've got the Nook charging right now. It was complaining a little. It was saying to me, I thought I was done. What, are you going to use me now? But we'll see. Great. Okay. And I believe this also, yeah, oh, it's good and stiff too. This also bends like the iPad Smart Keyboard. It bends to make a stand for the Nook. I don't think I'll much use it that way, but great. And then, so you put the Nook in there. You just latch it in there. I imagine it's nice and solid. And then you don't ever take it out. This just becomes the case for it. So I will give that, that's fantastic. Okay, so that's not going to arrive tomorrow. Tomorrow's MegaStuff video, if I make one. This one's exhausting. If I make one, tomorrow's will be a report on how it was, on how it works. Great, and look at the, good Lord, the packaging is all battered to hell and gone because nobody has these things anymore. Okay, great. All right, so my second smart keyboard. So that's it. That is your MegaStuff video for today. The only call to action, as my larger booktube friends say, is if any of you know of the kind of cloth keyboard that I'm talking about from a third-party vendor. I got Apple's, but if you know of one of that kind of keyboard out there, maybe you use it yourself, let me know. You don't have to leave a comment. You can just email me. I leave my email in every video. Let me know. I am in love with cloth, with those one fabric keyboards that don't have movable gaps between the keys. They don't have this. See, I can stick my finger in there. I could pull that off if I wanted to. You can't do that with a cloth, with a fabric keyboard, and I very much like that. So let me know if you have one of those and use it, especially if it's a third party that you didn't pay premium price for. Let me know, because I would love to get a couple of backups. But anyway, that's about all I can take. So I'm gonna wrap this MegaStuff video up for now, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.